Mr. Ron Thomas, Chairman and President of UIBC. I guess you're the only president right now, right?
The United States India Business Council.
The Council President. Ron has been very instrumental in shaping US-India nuclear deal in several ways, the final form of the agreement. And as you know that the whole deal is marred right now because yesterday leftist government against South faced notice against UPA Congress alliance that this deal must be off. So Ron, tell me, if this deal hypothetically doesn't go on, I mean, let's say that we won't be able to materialize it, what will be lost in terms of business in US-India trade? What kind of loss we're expecting over the decade if this bill does not get through?
Allow me to answer the question from the other side, if you don't mind, and that is that what can we achieve if it does indeed go through? And that is that I think the greatest opportunity that I understand is that it opens up India's nuclear industry to access the entire global community. We know that there are many companies in France, in Russia, in China, literally 45 other nations that are part of the nuclear suppliers group that want to be engaging with India in nuclear trade. And so what it does is it opens up India's opportunity to the global community in civilian nuclear trade. So from that standpoint, it's India's ability to build out an entire nuclear energy portfolio to meet its growth demands for the 21st century from an energy standpoint, from an electricity standpoint, and to do so with an energy source that is environmentally safe and clean, in the sense that nuclear energy is not a carbon-emitting fuel, and therefore greenhouse gases are not there, and therefore global warming is not there. So this is a chance for India to trade with 45 nations and to build out its nuclear and its energy and its electricity portfolio in an environmentally safe manner for the 21st century.
So Ron, just to recapitulate on the last point, the leftist has raised this objection that what is being told that nuclear energy will replace the India's need. They are showing the calculation that by 2020, even 4% of the total energy demanded by the India cannot be fulfilled by the nuclear plant, even if the total amount of nuclear plant that can be established is in the number of 15 to 20. So they are saying that it has to more do with the US trying to counterbalance the China's power rather than the actual replacement of the energy. So can you enlighten us this leftist opposition point, because they have been raising this point quite on and off in Parliament and in the media?
You know, the great thing about the United States India Business Council activities over the last 3 years is that we've had a chance to launch several missions to India of civilian nuclear energy companies that are very interested in engaging in collaborations with India. And let me put it in perspective. We're talking about major companies like General Electric, which are long-term players in India with more than 105 years of experience on the ground, Westinghouse Corporation, Bechtel Corporation, some of the great American companies. It's been my privilege to be accompanying them on missions to India. In meeting with friends at the Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited, what I've learned is that till date, only 3,500 megawatts of power of India's total installed capacity of 132,000 megawatts is being generated by nuclear energy. So 3,500 megawatts of power against a total installed capacity of 132,000 megawatts. The aspiration of Nuclear Power Corporation of India is to develop 20 to 30,000 or maybe even 60,000 megawatts eventually over the next 40 years, which is a robust program, no doubt, but clearly it's feasible. And therefore, what this agreement enables is for companies like Nuclear Power Corporation of India, companies like Larsen & Toubro, Tata Power, and some of the other great global champions in India to be involved in this space, not only for India's energy build-out, but for environmentally safe power development for India and for other countries around the world. So this is a huge global opportunity for India. I don't want to understress that point.
Okay, again, coming back to another leftist opposition viewpoint, allow me to speak, on their point. See, one of the points that Fosaactv raised that he said he is literally afraid of the growing India-US defense relationship because the Robert Gate was there and there was been a joint naval exercise. So, and as you know, the leftists has demonstrated on the street, and this US-India nuclear deal is coming on the part of the same agenda, according to them, that this is a expansion of US imperialism, which has been long-term goal of the communist parties all over the world. So, keeping that perspective, do you think in this 21st century, the kind of idealism that is being exercised is a good thing to do for the business and the progress of the business for bilateral trade?
Again, if I could just approach the question from a different angle, and that is, in July 18th, 2005, when the civilian nuclear agreement was announced here in Washington, D.C., it was really the announcement of the end of a technology denial regime that had been imposed by the world against India that was finally coming to an end. And at the United States-India Business Council, we're a trade association made up of American and Indian companies, and our very purpose is to advance two-way trade and to deepen commercial ties. So the end of a technology denial regime imposed by the multilateral business community or imposed by a number of different countries against India, we're delighted to have that end, and that's what we believe that this agreement represents. In terms of the linkage, which I think is the question that you're asking, in the end, we are both democracies. India is the largest free market democracy on the planet Earth. It's the greatness of India as a nation. The wonderful thing about India is that it insists on an open and free and a vibrant press. It insists on rule of law. And these are the same tenets that we ascribe to here in the United States. So I'm very delighted as an individual, on a personal level, and as a professional, as president of the United States-India Business Council, that it's clear to me that we are gravitating more close together as we advance into the 21st century as the two representative democracies from two different corners of the world. And so, is there linkage? I don't see this as some master conspiracy. This is the fact that the world needs energy. Let me give you a perspective. This is a very interesting perspective. Presently, in the world today, there are only 400 nuclear reactors that are operating. 22 of those are in India. 100 of those, of the 400, are here in the United States. By the year 2050, in order for the world to meet its energy demands, before hydrogen technology becomes available, there will be a need to grow from 400 nuclear reactors to 2,500 nuclear reactors. Who's going to build these? It's going to be the countries like India that has Bharat Forge and other great companies. It's going to be countries like the United States, like Japan, like Russia, that have the forging capabilities that can produce these reactors to be able to provide the equipments that would be needed for not just India or the United States, but for the entire global community to meet the global energy demand without causing carbon emissions and therefore global warming. So this is an environmental imperative. And therefore, if there's anything motivating this from the business community, apart from pure commercial interest, it's the fact that we need to find a source of energy that is environmentally safe, that's going to meet our energy requirements for at least the first half of the 21st century before hydrogen technology becomes feasible and available. And it's going to take partnerships and collaborations like the one that's contemplated in the civilian nuclear agreement to make this happen and to make this possible. So I look at this as a partnership that almost is destined to fate, and it will happen, and I would only hope that it does happen.
So, and there is one more point that has been raised by the Indian leftists. Again, let me play the devil's advocate role here. They are telling that 123 agreement of the Hyde Act, as right now it is being called, they are curtailing down the sovereignty of India or the India's weapon expansion plan. I mean, how far you will agree with that? Do you think that the way that right now the contract is, will that have any kind of impact on the India's own defense expansion plan or any indigenous build-up of the nuclear weapon?
Absolutely not. My understanding, and this is